Siren Radio.
Good morning and welcome to the show. I'm Nick Cobden.
And I'm Jack Bland.
And today we'll be discussing childhood foods and the issues around them. Coming up on today's show, we ask people on Lincoln's High Street if they think that parents should force their diets upon their children. We'll be speaking to a parent about what foods they feed their children. And we talk to a cafe owner about the decisions they made when creating a childhood food menu. But first, as you know, today we'll be talking about childhood foods. But have you ever wondered if childhood foods were different for people across the country? Well, luckily, I live in a flat with people from all over the country, and I spoke with them to find out more. So I'm here with a couple of my flatmates, and we're going to talk about their childhood foods, because we're all from different parts of the country. Where are you from?
Bottom of Lincolnshire, near Stanford.
I'm from Leicestershire.
Ipswich.
What childhood foods did we eat?
Roast dinners, vegetables, fruits.
Well, I ate Cornish pasties and I don't eat them now because I don't live there anymore.
I used to have bananas and custard for pudding and donuts as well because of the story of I used to go swimming.
Bananas and custard, that's so weird.
It is a weird mix. A lot of people say it's a strange one.
Has anyone heard of crispy pancakes?
No.
I've heard of them, obviously, but I've never had them.
I've never.
Yeah.
I used to eat a lot of, we used to have loads of chocolate spread, which I don't eat anymore. That was like the go-to thing in our household.
But I'll tell you a dinner that I used to have as a kid that we hated it, was casserole. It was just loads of disgusting vegetables, potatoes. But all she did is my mum just put vegetables in it. She didn't put enough of the meat. That's what we wanted. And we were just like, Mum, I'm not being funny, mate. You can't call this a casserole because it's just vegetables. It's just vegetables.
Are those they're like cakes that you have after and they're like checkered? So there's like the pink square.
Battenberg.
Is that the one?
I never had
that.
The angel ones.
Used to hate them.
Those are disgusting.
The taste are just...
I never had those.
And I used to hate
those
as a kid.
Isn't it?
Is it marzipan? Yeah, that's
marzipan's horrible.
Does anyone remember those, it was like sugar, I forgot what they're called, but you had like a little stick and then you dipped it.
Dib dab.
Yes, dib dab.
Oh, yeah, they were really bad for you, to be fair.
Yeah, but
did you have like brain lickers as well, like the ball, and it had like the sugary stuff in the... penguin, pick up a penguin.
Everybody had those.
Man.
I had to go to the shop afterwards to buy
and then you'd
my
see
stuff.
the guy at the table sitting there with his penguin and he'd open it up and be like, guys, read this one.
Does anyone remember the old Yorkies? Do you remember the...
Oh yeah, the no, not for girls.
I remember those, yeah. And then the horrible Sultana ones was not for men. It was like, we don't want them anyway.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Didn't batter an eyelid at that.
No, we were horrible.
You said earlier smiley faces.
Smiley, I love
the potato thing? Yeah, my mum used to do those.
I still eat them now.
Yeah, I really do as well,
Yeah.
Oh, turkey dinosaurs. Anyone have turkey dinosaurs?
Oh yeah, with the shapes.
Yeah, I still do. Yeah, last time we went shopping, I had some. They were gone in a week.
You used to get like really cool different shapes, didn't you? And I used to actually not want to eat it because I liked the shape.
So that was some really interesting stuff that you found there, Nick.
Yeah.
What I seemed to get from that was that there was a massive variation in the stereotypical foods that kind of your flatmates used to eat. I know your flatmate that comes from Cornwall had a lot of Cornish pasties.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was a lot of like similarities in terms of like the lunchbox type meals that they were all having together. Is that sort of what you found?
Yeah, the general consensus really that everything we all ate as children was very similar.
Yeah.
Everything from evening meals to lunchbox meals to like sweets and chocolates and things like that. It was all very similar. It's like you said, it's just the regional things that were different. Obviously, you mentioned the Cornish pasties.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't mention when I was there was that oatcakes. They're regional to Stoke-on-Trent, where I'm from. They're kind of like something you roll up and you can basically fit almost a whole English breakfast inside one.
A whole meal?
Yeah, almost. I don't really know how to explain it very well, but yeah.
Well, I'm going to definitely come over to Stoke-on-Trent and actually get an oatcake now because I would love for my meals to be packed up in like a roll-up type of object. I think that would look really kind of cool.
Does make it very
Tastes
convenient,
nice. Yeah, to be honest. But yeah, they mentioned a lot of stuff that's very nostalgic for myself. So they talked about, obviously, the dinner meals like the smiley faces. I used to have a lot of things like the small potato waffles, the small potato alphabets as well.
Oh, yes, the alphabets, yeah.
And then I never heard of turkey dinosaurs, though.
You never heard of turkey dinosaurs?
No, never had any of that. It was all the breaded chicken nuggets.
Oh.
So, yeah, that was...
you're missing out. Oh, well, with all that talk about food, it's making me quite hungry, but we're going to play You Cake Bad Ocean by DNCE.
Siren Radio 107.3 FM.
Nick and Jack here on Siren. That was Cake by the Ocean by DNCE. Absolutely love that song, probably because it's about food. But let's move back on today's tasty topic, childhood food.
Today, we've already established what foods we ate throughout our youth, but we've yet to question just why we ate it and the level of control that we had over choosing what we consumed. Siren has recently gone onto the streets of Lincoln questioning the general public whether children should have their own decision into becoming vegan or vegetarian. Have a listen to what we found.
I think to a certain extent, no, because they need to make sure that they are having nutritious food to make sure that they're healthy enough.
Well, I think they should at least have the option to try the different diets so that they could make an informed choice, but at the same time I don't think they should be purely vegan just for bully reasons. At some point I would give them the option to make the choice.
Yeah, I'll give them a choice. Why? Just because you bring children up to have a view, and it'd be wrong of you to try and channel that view into your view, but equally try to give them an informed decision over exactly what the choices are.
So all the responses that we found seem to be rather similar, don't they, Nick?
Yeah.
So do you think that children should have this level of control whether they choose a vegan or vegetarian diet? Because most people are suggesting this.
I mean, I can understand why they're suggesting it, but, you've got to figure out the age and maturity, because if you ask a child that's, quite young, what do you want, and you make them make their own decision, they'll probably eat really unhealthy foods, sweets, chocolates, things like that. Whereas if you ask a child that's a little bit older, they might actually make an informed decision. So you've just got to find that line between age and maturity.
For sure. I think it's wonderful sometimes to kind of let your child develop and understand. It's like a learning process about a healthy diet, because, without that parental figure, sometimes it's really good just to have that independence as a kid.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a good reason to have it. But like you said about the bad reasons being the chocolate and the sweets, they might just turn to the chips, the pizza, because it's kind of vegetarian. It can lead to stuff like obesity and diabetes and stuff like that. The kind of the bad causes. So that's not so great. But we then moved on to ask an additional question, whether parents should implement their own diets onto their children or not. So here's what we found.
I think that, they do, they cook the food and they provide the food, but I don't think it should be forced onto their children if their children have a strong opposition to what their parents consume.
I think they should, but they should allow some say on what the child wants to eat.
I think they should, because it's kind of a parent's responsibility to make sure that their child is getting the best food possible.
Depends what the parents eat, basically. So if the parents are vegetarian, fine, or vegan, fine. But certainly when they're young, then I think it should be whatever the parents are eating.
So there's a bit more of a mixture of responses from this question, but I can kind of understand why this might be the case.
Yeah, I can understand why it's the case, but at the same time, the way that I was brought up, evening meals were such an essential part of being a family, because it was the one point in the day we'd all sit down together and, spend that time together. Not all of our meals, were exactly the same because of allergies and things like that, but, they were all quite similar because obviously, we didn't really have the room or the money to make, different meals.
So you talk about money there, and actually that's a very, very valid point to make, because vegan products especially are on the rise in price.
Yeah.
And it becomes increasingly harder for families that are on a very strict budget to actually buy these products and have their children actually eat this type of food. So this is why they might implement their own diet that doesn't consist of these vegan products onto their children.
Yeah. My biggest issue with that is budget supermarkets, because a lot of young families do use budget supermarkets,
Sure.
being on a tight budget and that. And they do, don't get me wrong, they do have vegan and vegetarian, options available, but they don't have a dedicated section like they would have, a dedicated chicken or, beef section. So with all that said, we'd love to hear whether you would let your child have this decision too. So be sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Nick and Jack on Siren to have your say.
The time is 10:15, and we now move on to a discussion with one of our callers, Wendy. She is a parent of 2 and has been packing the snacks for school for her children throughout their youth. We'll be gaining an insight into what she fed her own children, what she feeds other children in her family, and we'll receive new ideas about what we can include in children's day-to-day meals. Wendy, thank you for joining us today.
Okay, thank you.
So we understand that for many years you oversaw the cooking and preparation for your children's meals. So what sort of things did you use to make and include, and did they enjoy the food?
I used to do cottage pie, which is minced beef, and then shepherd's pie is your minced lamb.
Oh yeah.
They used to enjoy that. You've got your nuggets and things like that. That was like a treat because you can't give them that all the time because it's no good, is it really? So, I was trying to think. Gosh, yeah, like cottage pie and pie as well.
Oh,
like
lovely.
Steak pie or whatever, you know, meats as well. But steak, gammon, pork.
Yeah.
With your potatoes and your veg, and your Sunday dinners.
Yeah.
Your Sunday roasts.
Yeah. So, as a family, were you all roughly eating the same diet, or were there some exceptions?
I think we all ate the same. The only time we didn't eat the same was when I used to have liver, and nobody else liked liver, so they were like, "Oh, don't like liver." So, used to cook them something else. They used to probably have bacon or something like that, bacon and eggs or something, which isn't too bad. Once a week, or
I mean, you can't be bacon and egg, so
yeah. Love bacon and eggs.
You can't, but you can't do it all the time, can you? Because, like I say, that's no good either. But once a week or something's not too bad. Eat things in moderation, I say.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah.
So something that we've been pondering over recently is the idea that children could have the option of choosing a vegan or vegetarian diet. So would you have allowed your children to have made this decision, and would you be able to provide these dietary needs to other relatives that currently visit you?
I would give my children the choice if they'd have wanted the vegan option, yeah. But like you've just been saying before, it's the cost again, isn't it? You know, things. Everything isn't as cheap as everything else, really, and it is costly, really.
Yeah, and so, it's never been like actually a low price. So yeah, like you said, it's really difficult to actually afford that type of stuff.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier, you know, that you included like chicken nuggets, you know, as like a treat every now and then. So did you? Yeah. So was including treats in your children's diets, like, you know, quite an important thing to get them to eat healthily, or was nutrition always the number one priority for you?
I think you've got to vary things, haven't you, with children's diets? Because if you give them all good stuff all the time, they wouldn't get bored. But it's like you need to give them some kind of treat every now and again. Yeah. Or else they would get, is this what we're getting all the time, kind of thing? And it's like, give them some treats, like I just said, in moderation. Yeah. So they don't expect it all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's absolutely wonderful hearing from you today, Wendy. Thanks so much for your thoughts, ideas, and your story.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
So I think it's time for another song, don't you, Nick?
I certainly do. This is Candy by Robbie Williams. The current time is 10:20.
Siren Radio. Lincoln and proud.